Okay. So, hi everybody. Thank you for joining us on this session of HBCU to Startup. Today we're talking with Natasha and Bjorn from Wyzerr, and we also have Greg from Blackson Technology with us. So, um, for those of you who don't know, HBCU to Startup um, is we're helping connect underrepresented minorities to opportunities in tech. And now we'll turn it to Greg if you want to tell us a little bit more about Blacks in Technology.
Definitely. Hi, everybody. I'm Greg Greenlee, the founder of Blacks in Technology. We are a professional platform for people of color in technology. What we do is we serve to increase the visibility and participation of people of color in tech through community, media, mentorship, and stewardship. A couple of things that we have going on right now. If you can check us out, www.blacksandtechnology.net. We're a online community of close to 2,000 members now, and that's nationwide and international. We have some members that are from Canada, from the UK, from Africa, so we have members from all over. Couple of things that we have going on. We just formed a partnership with the Linux Foundation, and what that partnership includes is free training to Linux Foundation training material, and also free conference passes. So there are a number of conferences that the Linux Foundation organized throughout the year. You can check the page out at blacksandtechnology.net, and you can read the blog about that. And there's a submission form there if you check that out and check out the trainings and the conferences, and let us know which one of those you want to attend, and we'll help you out. Also, we have a Slack channel, and we are close to 450 members on our Slack channel. So if you go to blacksandtechnology.net and put in a search for Slack, you'll see the invite form. It's automated, so you'll get an invite within 5 minutes of you signing up on that form. Also, I want to talk about something that we have coming up called the Tech Life. And what the Tech Life is, it's our parent moniker for a Google Hangout web series that discusses the behind-the-scenes life of people in color in tech. And our first video installment is actually called Getting Hired. So what that is we're going to be featuring people of color in tech that are working for high-profile tech companies such as Google, Amazon, Apple, Salesforce, and a member of the Blacks in Technology organization will be participating in a candid discussion with our participants, and we'll be giving practical and actionable advice about how to get hired, resume tips, skills needed, interviewing tips, what it's like to work at these top tech companies, and what it takes to get ahead once you're there. So we have that coming up. Our first video is going to be May 2nd, and we're going to be talking to somebody who works at Amazon. So that should be pretty exciting. Shout out to the people at Gaslight. They're going to actually be hosting us for that. And last but not least, Bit T-shirts are for sale. So if you check out blacksandtechnology.net, at the bottom you'll see a link for shop. Click on that, and you can order you one of these. That's it for me.
Great, great. Thank you, Greg. So now to our guests, our other guests on the call, we've got Natasha and Bjorn, co-founders of Wyzerr. If you guys can tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Yep, sure. I'm the CEO and I lead product development at Wyzerr. I'm originally from Southern California. I did my undergrad at Berkeley and went to law school at Georgetown. And currently live in Cincinnati, Ohio / Covington, Kentucky, where Wyzerr is headquartered.
Nice. And I'm Bjorn Simmons. I'm the co-founder of Wyzerr and the chief strategy officer. So I lead like marketing activities, strategic operations, and sales. I am originally from Little Rock, Arkansas, born and raised, graduated from the University of Arkansas. In post-college, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, where I worked in politics and did a lot of campaign work. I like to tell people I was just kind of bit by the Obama bug a little bit. And so I was the youngest, one of the youngest chiefs of staff for the House of Representatives. So I worked on the leadership team there with Stacey Abrams and Carolyn Hughley. Then I did a lot of campaign work in the state of Arkansas as well. So I was doing a lot of political advocacy in the South, and now I was introduced to the tech world and met my co-founders. I'm based in Cincinnati, Ohio as well. Well, Greater Cincinnati, and our headquarters in Covington, Kentucky.
Great, great. Thank you for sharing information about you guys. So before we get started with the Q&A, I just want to share with everyone, if you have questions and you would like to ask Greg, Natasha, Bjorn, some of your questions, there's a 9-dial box that should be in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. You click that box, and then it'll open up a Q&A tab, and once you open that up, you'll be able to ask questions directly to us. If you also want to just hit us up on Twitter, if you happen to be watching via YouTube, you can just hit us up or tweet us at HBCU2Startup, and we can answer your questions from there. So if you have questions, again, we'll add those into the conversation. So we're going to start off. Natasha, we're going to start off. I know I asked you guys a little bit about your introductions, but it'd be great to dig a little bit more deep into what you meant. Both of you guys seem to have some backgrounds that aren't necessarily in tech, so I'm very curious about that. And Natasha, we can start with you.
Yep, sure. So I actually came into Cal as a biochem major, and then my freshman year started taking computer science classes. And I took a few. I could probably have double majored, but I ended up taking a legal studies course to fulfill one of my requirements, and kind of fell in love with law, and so I ended up graduating as a legal studies major. And then I worked in IP law for a little bit before I went to law school, so patents, trademarks, and copyrights, and working on some of the biggest patent applications, so for companies like Samsung, IBM. And that's really where my love for tech got started, and I guess the rest is history.
And Bjorn?
Bjorn?
Is he with us? Did he freeze?
Uh-oh.
Oh.
There he is. I think you're muted.
Oh, yeah, he's muted. So while he becomes unmute, Natasha, can you tell us a little bit? So you mentioned that you went from legal to in legal, introduced you to tech a little bit.
Yep.
But then where did the biochem come from? And I'm curious about how how that worked together for you.
Well, so when I was growing up, I actually was a huge bio and chemistry enthusiast growing up. Like in middle school, high school, I took a lot of DAP courses, and anything my school offered. So we had a bridge with one of the local colleges, Chapman University, at my high school. So some of the top performing science students were asked to collaborate and work on these experiments at the college. And so I was working a lot heavily in the biology and chemistry, experiment and testing, and that's actually why I ended up going to Berkeley, because Berkeley is a huge science school. And so I thought I was going to become a scientist or a doctor, and quickly realized that science at Berkeley is very different from science in high school. So, so I explored other majors. I went into computer science. My brother is an engineer. My older sister works with engineers, and so it kind of was in the blood to go into computer science.
Perfect. And Bjorn, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah. So we got you back on unmute. So the original question was, can you tell us a little bit more about how you got into tech with your background?
Sure. So I growing up in Arkansas, I don't think there were many access to the tech world or the tech channel. And so my first full introduction to this ecosystem, this space, was at South by Southwest down in Austin, Texas. At this time, myself and actually one of my co-founders, Stedman Harper, were running a freelance marketing company called the Win Group. And we actually, Natasha and Stedman were working together on her previous startup, Sooligan. And so Stedman and I collaborated to do a marketing activation at South by Southwest, and I think that was 2014 now?
Mm-hmm.
Or 2015. Maybe 2015.
2014.
Okay, so 2014, but that was my end. And so we did a experiential marketing campaign down there, and that was my first introduction to this world of technology and innovation that was just brooding. And I fell in love with it. And then from there, I just really worked on trying to figure out what my entry point was. I was still very active in politics at the time, and I was beginning to experience a lot of friction as far as the environment that I was in, not wanting to be innovative and move into the direction that I had witnessed at South by Southwest. And so working with a startup became my entry point into this world. And now I'm thoroughly immersed in it, just seeing the benefits it's have, not only for the leaders that are produced within it, but what it's doing for economies in cities and across the world, really.
Yeah, so since you guys have worked together in the past, I mean, is that how like Wyzerr came to be? Can you tell us a little bit more about what Wyzerr is and how you guys started working on it?
Yeah, so the story about how Wyzerr came to be is actually kind of interesting. So really quick, Wyzerr, we make forms for customer feedback that look and feel like games. The idea is to be as fun, fast, and easy as possible for people to provide their feedback and for businesses to use that data. So all of our we don't call them surveys, we call them smart forms. They can capture up to 25 questions in under 60 seconds. And we use a lot of really smart technology to get that data. But how Wyzerr started actually, so so the previous startup, Sooligan, that we were working on, I got into an accelerator kind of as a last resort. So this is after working on that startup for like 3.5 years. I knew that the company was coming to an end. Like it was just too hard to work on it. Like it had all the signs of, a failed startup. And I guess I was just really stubborn and I didn't want to give up. So I applied into this accelerator for whatever reason they took us. And so I moved to New York to work on it. And within 2 weeks of getting there, the director of the accelerator pulled me outside and he literally said, I effing hate your company. This is an SHITY company. And like, he was like, I hate it. And so, I was like, well, I disagree with that statement, but I'm interested in knowing why you would invest in a company that that you hate. And he was like, well, I recognize a smart leader and I recognize a really smart team, and I think you guys could do well in anything that you guys do, like something else. And so he pretty much gave me like 24 hours to come up with a new company. In that 24 hours, we actually came up with Wyzerr. And so we've been at it ever since.
Wow.
Wow.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, right?
Well, that's a
So,
pretty interesting, I guess, initiation into something new and different. Somebody telling you that your company is crap, and then, but also believing in you. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I think the feedback, like, it was hard to hear, but honestly, like, I think I needed to hear it at that moment and at that time, because I think if it was any time before that, I would have not given up. I mean, I think the same things that make entrepreneurs successful is also like their downfall. We're extremely stubborn. Like when people tell you you suck, like you don't tend to believe it. It just goes in one ear, not the other. So I mean, it works for the most part, but sometimes, it does keep you from kind of advancing.
yeah.
so what about your Natasha, for you, your previous experience in law, and Bjorn, your previous experience in politics? How are those skill sets from your previous experience used now with Wyzerr?
I would say it's kind of funny. We just had this conversation just last week at how we just kind of fell into our positions. Like Natasha her legal back. Well, I'll let her speak for herself for sure, but her legal background has made her very well at documentation and making sure that raising money and being the CEO, and those are a lot of the things that are required of a CEO. And she's very good at that, and very effective and very efficient about responding and speaking the lingo. And I think she's done that very well. Me, I was very active as far as a grassroots organizer. So I think me being into the marketing role or in a partnerships role just kind of worked out. I'm also used to working with lobbyists and working with partnering with nonprofit organizations and trying to figure out polling. Really connecting with people. I'm doing the pitching, hosting a lot of events, a lot of things that I had to do for politics. I'm having to recreate into Wyzerr. It's very interesting how they kind of correlate, and I think there's a very close tie to marketing and the world of marketing and the world of politics as well. So it just kind of worked out like that, at least for me, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, exactly what Bjorn mentioned. I think it's just coming from the legal world, like there was so many, like we write a lot in the legal. I think they say lawyers write more than authors do. But like documentation, structure is like, I worked with for some really big law firms like Wilmer Hale, Sugar Mayan when I was in that world, and I think they really instilled like this like adherence to structure and to rules and stuff. And I think with startups, you tend to relax a little bit, like you kind of go with the flow. But I think we run Wyzerr, or at least I try to run Wyzerr, very structured. Like there's a lot of documentations, there's a lot of processes and systems, and I think that's really what's helped us. We raised a really big seed round. We were able to work with a lot of really big enterprise companies, and I think part of that is because we were able to get some of these processes and really understand how to work with the corporate world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And backtracking here a little bit for Natasha, uh, to my understanding, you taught yourself how to code, right?
Yes. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So how did you begin to program, and what advice do you have for others who don't have non-traditional backgrounds and are interested in coding?
Yeah, well, so I mean, I had a little bit of help. I mean, I watched when I was younger. My brother and my sister taught me how to code. They're both engineers, and so, and then in college, like I had courses, but a lot of it was theoretical. But then afterwards, like in my first startup, what I learned was that I didn't want to be at the mercy of coders, and like especially if you want to when you run a tech company, I don't want to say it's a requirement um, to be able to code, but it becomes really hard if you can't like code check some of the work, especially if you're working with contractors. And a lot of times also like we use a lot of overseas contractors, and so when there was a bug during the day, we had to wait for them to fix it. And that just like killed a lot of things. Like sometimes we do launches and then platforms had crashed. I remember the first time we did a launch, there were so many users that the platform crashed after like 400 users, and we couldn't use it anymore. And I had to call my developer who was in Pakistan and like try to fix it. And it was just a mess. And so after that whole experience, I actually started learning. I took a lot of like online courses again to brush up on my skills. But I do think that within the founders, at least one person should know how to code. I mean, I just think it helps a lot, especially with hiring, with product development.
Hey, Natasha, what were some of the online resources and resources that weren't online that you use to bolster up your coding skills?
Yeah, so there's a couple of courses online for free from Stanford that I use, and I can't remember. I can probably find it and then share it later. But there were some really great courses that I use, and then I signed up for Team Treehouse. So there's a lot of different online courses. I just like the design and the layout of Team Treehouse. They do a really good job of breaking up the different like learning. So like it goes through like a project and it goes through different steps of that project. So if you're learning HTML, you're learning PHP, like it breaks it down in ways that you can really understand.
Hmm.
Um, so I would use Team Treehouse. I know a lot of people like what is that? The really popular Udemy, or what is it?
Udemy?
Yeah.
Udemy. Udemy. Yeah. So I knew it was one of those. So I know a lot of people like that. I personally didn't really like that one. I think Team Treehouse, in my opinion, was just a lot user friendly.
It's good to
Cool.
know. And so you started Wyzerr in Ohio, or you mentioned that it's based in Kentucky. Like, is it Ohio or is it Kentucky? I just want to make sure.
It's based in Kentucky now. It was
Cincinnati.
yeah, it was
Oh, Cincinnati.
yeah. We actually moved.
Just real quick, just to give you a quick geographical reference. Cincinnati and Kentucky, we border each other, and there's just a river that separates us. So right across the bridge is Covington, Kentucky, and then Cincinnati is on the other side. So
Thank you. Okay. Back in.
It's a $5 Uber ride, so that's how you know it's very close. It's literally
right, right.
across from my office to Cincinnati. But we moved to Ohio in June of 2015 to join the Brandery. So we were actually in the 2015 class of the Brandery Accelerator. And then we thought we were going to move back to LA, which is where I'm from, and built the company there. But we ended up kind of falling in love with the city of Cincinnati and the area, and we stayed there.
And so you spent some time. You mentioned the Brandery in Ohio. You spent some time in some other accelerator programs.
Yep.
Can you tell us more about your experience?
Yeah, so my journey actually started in Arkansas, which is how I met my co-founder, Stedman Harper. I joined the first class of the ARC Challenge in Arkansas, and it was an accelerator that really focused on retail and logistics, because Walmart is down there. There was a trucking company,
JB Hunt.
JB Hunt,
Mhm.
down there. So they were really big on logistics and retail. So I joined that accelerator because I figured it's the first year. There's a lot that they'd probably putting into their first class, and I'm glad that I did, because I think in Arkansas, even though there isn't a huge startup scene and it isn't a big tech scene, but there is such a strong community of people that want Northwestern Arkansas to kind of move forward in tech and startups. And so these private citizens were the ones that funded this accelerator, and they were a lot of them came from Walmart, a lot of them came from Tyson's Chicken, but these private citizens were the ones that kind of like funded this entire ecosystem around tech. And in my opinion, it's what made me like be able to understand what a good entrepreneur is supposed to look like, because a lot of these people were entrepreneurs. Like, they were kind, they were honest, they were hardworking. They didn't, it wasn't a dog eat dog world. Like, they genuinely wanted to see people succeed. And so when I went to New York for my second accelerator, it was completely different. Like, the mentors there were completely different, the investors there were completely different. Like, it was just a very like revenue and profit driven environment. And it definitely affected me, like, in a negative way. Like, I had anxiety throughout the second accelerator, and all kinds of things. And then when I went to the Brandery, but then I always had that Arkansas, those investors and those mentors kind of as a standard of what a good mentor and a good investor should look like. Like, my first angel investors were all really great and supportive people. And so the second, being in New York, like, it kind of diminished my thoughts of like the VC world. But then when I went to Ohio, it was kind of the same atmosphere as Arkansas, but they were much more advanced. Like, a lot of the things that Arkansas lacked, Cincinnati had, but it was still that same like feel of like really supported, genuine people that just wanted to see the local ecosystem grow.
So if you had to, you mentioned a lot of things there, so it sounds like the benefits are very vast for people who are interested in joining accelerator programs. But if you had to point out like the top 2 or 3, what would you say is the most beneficial about joining an accelerator?
I really think looking at the mentors and their network. So the Brandery is well connected. Like, it was just amazing. Like, some of our mentors are, so every startup gets assigned like 5 super mentors, and these are the mentors that kind of whatever you need throughout the Brandery, they help you. So we were assigned someone from Google, someone from Samsung, someone from, I mean, there was just like 5 really phenomenal people.
Kroger.
Someone from Kroger, someone from who were the other two? Wendy Lee, which is the CEO of Centrifuge locally. And then there was another person, but like all 5 of our mentors had these like huge networks, and anytime we needed something, like they got it done, like no matter what. Like I remember I got on a call with our mentor from Google, like, and we asked like, oh, do you know this? And like he had the introduction before I even hung up the phone with him. And so I think definitely when you're looking at accelerators, look at the networks and the brandery. Like even if they weren't like the official mentors, if there was some like the given rule, or like what a lot of people said was that the people in the brandery were connected, like 2 people away from whoever you wanted to be connected to in the world. And so it was so funny because we had a joke about that. I was like, well, and I jokingly said, well, what if I wanted to talk to President Obama? And it turned out that one of the founders of the brandery, his dad actually is like the chief of like Veterans Affairs or whatever. And so he is one person away from President Obama. So, I mean, I think definitely look at the networks, number one. Number two, look at the funding that they provide. So the brandery provided $50,000, but they also provided housing. So, you know, being an accelerator, you're somewhere, you know, for a few months, like it's month to month. So it's hard to like go into places where you don't have an apartment, which is what happened at the ARC challenge. Like we didn't have a place to stay. We had to find a place, which was really like difficult through the first few weeks while we were in the program. But the brandery also has apartments for the startups. And then the third thing is just the added perks. So the Brandery's added perks was a creative agency partnership. So these are the same creative agencies that do branding and marketing for companies like Procter & Gamble and Nike. And so we had the same exact services that they did. Like they offered, like, I think, so we actually had 2 creative agencies work with us. And so our logo was designed by the same branding agency that did like Febreze and Procter & Gamble, some of the Procter & Gamble's brands. And then our interfaces were redesigned by Possible. And again, like they built the app for JetBlue and Nike, Microsoft. And so like, you know, all of these things in monetary value was probably near 100,000 and above. And we got it all for free for being in the brandery.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is that, it sounds like, I mean, I'm sure that from all the benefits associated with the brandy, it's pretty tough to be accepted, right? So you have to be on your stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so we were really fortunate because so Rob McDonald, one of the founders of the brandery, he actually was a judge at Power Moves Detroit, and I actually pitched at Power Moves Detroit, and so like right after he had already seen, like, I think that was like the ad, like we kind of got really lucky that he had already seen me pitch, and so he kind of understood the product a lot more than most people when they apply to, you know, accelerators like the brandery. So I would say, like, if you can like find someone to do a personal intro and meet with some of the decision makers at these accelerators prior to submitting your application, that probably would help you a lot.
It's good to know. So can you tell us more about like the Wyzerr team? How big are you guys? Is it you two?
Yeah, so there's 11 of us now. So we've grown a lot. I mean, it's crazy because we moved to Cincinnati with just 3 people. Um, but so we have 2 full stack developers. We have a data scientist. Like our co-founder is a designer. We have another designer. We have a slew of salespeople that focus on just enterprise sales, and many of them, like we actually, our lead enterprise sales guy came from Amazon, and then the other guy had spent 18 years at Procter & Gamble. And then we have a CFO who really is more like a finance manager at this point. And am I missing someone?
The developers, designers, I think you got everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you guys looking to expand your team anytime soon? And if you were, then what is it that you look for in your next hire?
We're always looking for wizards. So we're
Mhm.
looking for rock star developers, which is what any startup is looking for. But so we're looking for, I think I'm trying to add a front end developer is my biggest need right now. Someone that, because we do a lot of animations, and it would just be nice to have a full, like, a front end developer in house, because right now we contract some of that work out. And then the additional hire would be another back end developer.
So,
Hey, real quick, can you because you're all from Cincinnati. I'm from Cincinnati, and Cincinnati is kind of one of those diamonds in the rough. Not a lot of people know about us as far as tech goes. So can you tell the audience a little bit about the startup scene in Cincinnati, and in particular the ones that are founded by people of color? Because I know there's a few of them here that have recently received funding.
Yep. Bjorn, do you want to talk about that? Because I feel like you're active, very active in the startup Cincy world.
Yeah, so Cincinnati is definitely growing. I think, like you said that very well, Greg. It's a dominant in the rough, especially here in the Midwest. So outside there, the ecosystem here is under the umbrella of a startup Cincy. So startup Cincy is a investment firm. It's also a organization called Centrifuge, which is a resource base for uh, entrepreneurs, and also a co-working lab, and then of course the branderies within this network. As far as the people of color, which is really cool, there's a Black Founders Network that was started by a fellow co-founder, female co-founder in the area, Candace Peters. Interesting story. She found out that the Wyzerr was coming to Cincinnati for the brandery. She organized just a meetup at a local restaurant, a local bar, and it's just a meetup with some fellow Black founders in the area. And from there, this organization has just grown to some really cool things that are getting ready to launch here soon. An organization that's building called the Tech 100. The Black Founders Network is going to be potentially funded here soon, doing a lot of amplification for the startups here in the ecosystem. And it's really cool to see. Also, here are companies like Listener, Rodney Williams. He's a very successful entrepreneur, not only in Cincinnati but across the world. Listeners, I mean, he's one of the top 10 startups in the country. They just raised like $10 million for a round. So they have about 40 people employed on their team now. So, those kind of metrics, those are real success stories for Black entrepreneurs, especially in technology. You also have Connexus, Rod Robinson. You have Black HR, which Chris Powell. You have some new companies that are rooting in an accelerator called Ocean, which is also here in Cincinnati. Attorney turned startup founder Otis Grigsby with Riser U, and another member of the Black Founders Network, Paris Petgrave, who came from London to join the Ocean Accelerator. So that's pretty huge for an entrepreneur to leave from London, a different country, to come to Cincinnati and to find a hub here and access to resources. So there's something very new and unique that's brooding here. And I think, unlike many other cities, it's easier to navigate and get away from the noise, as you will find in like Silicon Valley or New York or Miami. And then the people here naturally want to support entrepreneurship, and especially in downtown OTR Cincinnati. And then we've also found a strong connection in Kentucky as well. So Covington, Kentucky, where the Wyzerr headquarters is starting its own tech-based ecosystem as well, and it's growing. And Wyzerr is very fortunate to be a part of that. So Cincinnati is definitely a place to take a look at. That we're onto something here for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I think just to add to that, I mean, like he mentioned like all the startups, but like, all of those startups that he mentioned have had some form of funding, like
Yeah.
some significant form of funding. And I think when you look at the entire like minority run like startups across the country, and then you look at how many of them are actually in Cincinnati, like it's crazy. Like there's at least 10 of us out there that have all raised over $1 million or are part of these like great, I think, like Connexus, Listener, Candidly, they all went through Techstars, and then some of the rest of us have all at least raised a minimum like $400,000 or so. And so like these are numbers unheard of in other ecosystems for minority and black run startups. So I think there's something really, and that's really why we stayed, is because we've lived all over the country. I lived in the Bay Area, we lived in LA, New York, DC, and I've never seen a startup ecosystem like the one in Cincinnati. It's just so supportive of minorities and so supportive of startups in general. And I think because it's not as crowded, it's so much easier for you to get the resources that you need.
Sure, sure. We actually, the Black Founders Network went to a state meeting last week, and they were showcasing talent or minority-founded companies that have been funded by the state, and 4 out of the 6 companies that they showed are right here in Cincinnati. So that's just, another testament to what's really happening. There's a renaissance happening here in Cincinnati. So it's like I say, it's fun for us to be a part of it, but the real benefit is going to come in the growth of it and really recruiting more talent as well as incubating the talent that's already here.
And real quick, I want to make a note of something that Rodney Williams always says when he talks about Cincinnati is your money stretches a lot further here.
That's true. That's true. That's true. You can get a nice place. I mean, Wyzerr is very fortunate. Again, we've been funded, but we all have our own places. We live independently, we're still able to navigate and build our company effectively, for sure.
So can you tell us more about the culture of Wyzerr? I mean, how is it that you're working, like both being underrepresented minorities? What's it like working on a team where you guys are the majority?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I guess we're still trying to understand our culture, but I think what, like, I'm really, like, okay, let me back up, because now I'm, like baffled, but, like, whenever I think of our team, like,
Right.
it's just so, like, it's so surreal to me. So our data scientist was actually one of the top PhDs out of UCLA last year. So he had a perfect GPA. And we brought him to Kentucky. We brought him. We had him. He moved to Covington for Wyzerr, and then like the person that's doing our sales, like he was one of the highest performing salespeople at Amazon, and so like we have all, and then like another salesperson, he was like the COO of Pure Romance and stuff, and like it's just so surreal to me because there's so many people with these like deep experiences and deep knowledge, and they're all working at Wyzerr, and so like I get excited. Like I'm in the office by like 7 o'clock every day, and like I don't leave until like 11 midnight every day, and some of my developers are still there, my data scientists are still there, and like it's just exciting to be a part of. I think everybody really believes that we're working, not just the founders, but everyone on the team believes that they're working on something that can change the world, and you see it in the way they work, and you see it in kind of their delivery. Like I don't have to ask them to stay late. They stay late because they want to. I mean, down to our operations manager, like she's there until 11 o'clock sometimes too, like just putting in as much work as possible. Like she's like literally falling asleep on the keyboard, but she's still there. And like you don't have to ask people to be there. And so I think like it's just exciting when you realize that like something that started kind of out of a really dark place, and B, Wyzerr was actually started on a napkin. Like our first designs, I drew them on a napkin, and like now to see it really thriving, like we work with some of the biggest Fortune 500 companies in the world. Like it's just surreal, I guess. And so the culture, I think it's just exciting to be part of something that everyone believes in the same thing.
Yeah, I guess to add to that, I would just say that I like the fact that everybody on our team is very innovative and kind of self-motivated. It's really cool because I guess you don't always get to see that in corporate America. Having worked in corporate America, having worked in politics, sometimes company cultures can be very rigid and cold. But Wyzerr, I mean, you'll see even on our Slack channel, everybody's just talking about Wyzerr swag. You know what I mean? And having a good time and just really so excited. It's like a real conversation about the swag as well as while they're also coding out a survey for a Fortune 100 company. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of, I think surreal is a really good word for it, but I also feel that way about just the tech environment as a whole, and it's just a testament to where cultures are going across the board. Like you'll see a lot of Fortune 500 companies or big codes are adopting startup cultures, right? And they're trying to be more innovative and more progressive and inclusive because maybe it's the millennials changing the world, but it's a new uh, I don't know the right words to say, but there's something new happening across the spectrum, not only just in startup culture, but it's also transferring into corporate America as well.
That's super great insight. I mean, so what can we expect next from Wyzerr? Like, what's next on the horizon?
Well, I just want to let everybody know that we're coming for everything. Everything.
Not just something.
So they come for everything.
In every hotel, we want to be in every airline. We want to be in every sports stadium. And I think we're making there's a lot of really big projects in the works. BK just came back from London last week. We were part of the Unilever 35 that they took to the Millennium 2020 Summit. But we have a lot of different projects with really big companies, which will mean that Wyzerr is actually rolling out in different countries and all across the country. Like we'll be in 1,000 retailers soon with one company, and we'll be in 1,000 auto dealerships soon across the world. So it's coming. We're coming for everything.
And so what's the best way that the people can support you and support Wyzerr?
Of course, follow our social medias and get involved. Like we really are really active on our social media. So join our Twitter, join the conversation. We're always looking to work with students and colleges, and sometimes we need feedback from them. A lot of companies want to know information from them, and especially trying to figure out this whole millennial wave. So we're really open company, and so reach out to us. Like I say, social media, our emails are visible on the website, allow us to answer questions. We do a lot of stuff in the community as well. So we'll allow Wyzerr to be as much of a resource to fellow or upcoming or prospect tech founders as we want to be, as we're really working for it. And it's something that I really appreciate about my team and working for Wyzerr is that we're not just shooting for the heights for ourselves. We're really shooting for it to provide another level of success or illustrate another level of success that some communities don't see and some people just don't really think about. But it's really cool. It's a really good space to be in. You kind of get to choose your own destiny and take it into your own grip. And entrepreneurship is sometimes shunned upon, but it's really a way to become exactly who you are. I wouldn't want to do anything else right now, or really for the rest of my life, besides being an entrepreneur and work for in a progressive ecosystem like technology and like Wyzerr and like what's happening in Cincinnati. So it allows you to find yourself professionally, but also does a lot to your personal life and your personal growth and accelerates it. You have to make a lot of tough decisions. You have to make a lot of put a lot of hard work in it, and you're only going to get out what you put in. So, yeah.
Yeah, in terms of support, we're always looking for. So right now we only work with large enterprise companies because there's so much manual coding and things like that have to be done to run a Wyzerr survey. But we are always looking for startups and small businesses who want to test some of our new interfaces and new platforms to do case studies and different things like that for us. And so if you need feedback or market research, want to do market research, we have some really cool we have some really cool smart forms to do that. And I actually just started a new one for HR. Basically after you interview candidates, we have a survey where you can actually then go through, answer these quick 25 questions in under a minute, and then it can actually track based on how you rated the candidate and different candidates, which candidate best fits what you're looking for. And all of the data and all of the analytics is done in the back end like really quickly. And I've been using it in the past 3 weeks, and it's pretty darn accurate. So I mean, we have that too. So we're always looking for people to test it before we roll it out to the masses.
And how does someone get in contact with you in order to, if they wanted to be a tester?
They can email info@wyzerr.com, or they can email Bjorn directly. So he does like all of the strategic and kind of testing focus groups and case study stuff.
Okay. And real quick, give us what's the URL for the site, and how can people follow you on Twitter?
So all of our social media is under Wyzerr, Wyzerr, and the website is www.wyzerr.com.
All right. So we're coming up on our the last few minutes of our session here, but didn't get a chance to ask this, but just out of plain curiosity, why the name Wyzerr? Like, where did the name come from, and how does that apply to the business?
Yeah, so the word we wanted was wiser, but you know the word wiser is taken by like Sony or something like that. But the idea is that we help businesses become wiser. So our mission statement, I guess, is that we empower businesses to make intelligent decisions by constantly listening to their customers and their stakeholders. And so if you're constantly listening, then you're constantly becoming wiser. So that's the name. But you know, Wyzerr was taken, Wise was taken, so we just decided to take. We were like, well, we're a little spunky little team, so WYZER.
It's funny, and last week in London at the Millennium 2020 conference, I actually met the CEO of the company Wyzerr, Wyser, and he has Wyser.com. So we had a.
Did you guys start fighting?
We didn't fight.
You ever watch the what's the Family Guy, where he always confronts the chicken, and him and the chicken, Peter and the chicken, always fight when they see.
It didn't turn into that, but we did get a drink together because we just thought it was so ironic that we met. And he was like, "Did you guys want our name?" We was like, "Actually, we did." He wanted to be an edgy, so. Yeah,
Bjorn just turned to.
That was funny.
Right on. Well, we're right at about time for this session, so I'm going to go ahead and thank everybody for joining, and thank you for joining us for this hangout of HBCU to Startup. Special thank you to our guests, Natasha and Bjorn from Wyzerr. And also thank you to Greg from Blackson Technology. If you like what you heard and you want us to if you want to let us know, or if you have suggestions or comments, you can email them to us or myself, Madori at hbcutostartup.com. That's MADOREE at hbcutostartup.com. And join us next Wednesday, or join us on Wednesday at 6:30 Pacific time and 9:30 Eastern time for another HBCU to Startup hangout, where our guest will be Bayes Impact, and it's a startup of data scientists. And they're going to tell us about how they're using technology to stop police brutality. So if there are any parting words from Natasha and Bjorn or Greg, we'd love to hear from you.
I just want to say, give Cincinnati a chance. You know, we'd love to see more minorities in Cincinnati. I know Candace would love to see more minorities in Cincinnati, especially women. So
stop it.
She's actually sitting right.
Oh, there was Candace. What's up, Candace?
I didn't even know she was there. I swear, I didn't know she was there.
Candace is part of the startup Hello Parent.
I didn't know she was there. I promise you.
That just happened. Oh, yeah. I just want to. I mean, I'm just big on like supporting entrepreneurs, and you know, really, I think the startup ecosystem, tech-based, tech-enabled economy is the wave of the future. So really, give it a hard look and an opportunity. There's so many opportunities that you can find within technology, from healthcare to art to music to data, as we are, you know, the whole STEAM and STREAM system that's building, and the educational system that's building. So give it a look and check it out. It's a cool place to be.
For me, just be on the lookout for the Tech Life coming soon. We'll be putting out some tweets and some blog posts and stuff like that, and promoting it very well. So be on the lookout for that.
All right. Thank you once again, Greg, Natasha, and Bjorn. It's been a pleasure. And I'll see you guys on Wednesday.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.